Hello, my name is Erica. How are you today? On my workbench today, we have a Stihl MS362. I bought this chainsaw on Facebook Marketplace for $250. I don't know anything about it, and today, together, we're going to find out everything about this chainsaw. Let's get started. Here we are with a Stihl MS362. This saw was born in 2010. I bought this on Facebook Marketplace for $250 Canadian. The guy I bought it from said, throw a bar and chain on it, and it's good to go. He said it's a perfect working chainsaw. What do you think? What does $250 buy you on Marketplace? We're about to find out. Quick walk around, looking at the plastics, the handles, hardware. Chain catcher is totally missing. The crankcase, something, I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. I just see bare metal. That AV mount is rotten. She's pretty dirty. We're missing a muffler bolt down in the corner there. Spark arrestor is missing. Well, I wonder what I've got myself into here. And there is fuel in there. Let's dump it out and take a look. And that's some dirty, murky looking fuel right there. And I can see the fuel line and the fuel filter attached to it, and quite a bit more dirt down in the bottom of that tank. I'm going to pour just a little bit of his fuel back in off the top, give this thing a shake, and try to get more of that dirt out of there. I'm going to run his fuel through this funnel. We'll catch the sediment, put his fuel back in it. This is what he was running it on, and he says it runs perfect. Okay, we'll leave the rest of that in the cup. You can see the lots of bar oil. Well, other than just siphoning some of the dirt out of his fuel, we have changed nothing here. His gas back in it. He says this thing runs perfect. Let's take it outside and try to start it. Well, it runs. Does it run well? Not really. Could we put a barn chain on it and go start cutting that load of logs? We could try, but we're not going to. I don't want to wreck this saw. I think it's in need of heavy maintenance. We have no idea what we're going to find under the hood. I can hear a noise. I don't know if it's a clutch drum. I don't know if the crank bearings are loud. It's not running properly. I think it's running rich. Let's dig in. And this is not the M-tronic version. This is the plain old 362 with the carburetor adjustments. We could take this thing outside and fart around with those fuel mixture screws, but then we would just be compensating for a problem, and we're not going to do that. Let's dig into this thing. Let's get that fuel back out of there. I need a 362. I've got some wood to cut, and we'll get rid of that. We'll reach in there and grab that fuel filter. Got my pressure vac tester here. I'm going to hook up to that fuel line, and we're going to pressurize the fuel line. And we're going to 10 psi, and it holds. I'll just drop that fuel line back down in the tank for now. That's probably one of the dirtiest fuel filters I've ever seen. It makes me want to open this thing up and dissect it. Maybe we will later. Okay, well, let's see what other surprises we can find on this well-maintained, perfectly good running chainsaw from Facebook Marketplace. So 362s in the beginning had this style of air filter, and then at some point, I don't know what year, they changed over to a round air filter that snaps on. So this is a two-piece air filter, an inner and an outer, and it's pretty bad. It's not a big deal to take your air filters out and clean them and replace them as they need it. Why a person wouldn't do that on a saw expensive like this, I don't know. I guess just lack of caring and go buy a new one. These filters have probably been cleaned. Looks like someone's blown air through them, blown little pinholes through them. And when you see the air filter get colored like that, that's the fuel mix from the carb. That distorts these, and it wouldn't create a proper seal. So when you see coloring like that, it's probably time just to go grab yourself a new air filter. And this air filter is actually broken right there. It's broke in a couple places. Let's pull the plug out of this and take a look at it. So this is one of those spark plugs that has a spinny top on it, which I don't like using. So the spinny top is no longer there. Oh yeah, it's up in there, what's left of it. So it fell off, vibrated off, and it's been vibrating against the spark plug. You can see the wear on it. So that's a solid top spark plug there. That does not unscrew. There's a spark plug without the solid top. And you see you can screw these off. These have some application somewhere, but I would not buy these for your modern chainsaw because of this reason. So on this saw, the metal spring coil in here ate right through that top. And there's what we're left with. So that's an NGK. You can see all the carbon buildup. It felt kind of funny coming out of the spark plug hole, and that's because of all the carbon on the threads. So this saw has been running rich, just like we seen outside. So we haven't got very far into this, and I can safely say that we do not have a perfect running chainsaw, as he said. I'll grab my camera. Let's take a peek down the spark plug hole. In we go. Oh, the cylinder looks good. I wasn't sure what we were going to see in here. Doesn't look too bad. A bit of carbon. but a nice looking cylinder. We can definitely work with this. Oh, that smell of sawdust and two-stroke. That smells better than Folgers in the morning. This saw just has that smell of, I've worked really hard. Please clean me up. Let's do a compression test. And we have 155 pounds of compression. I don't want anything falling down that spark plug hole. So let's go ahead and put a new plug in it now. We're not going to put that old nasty plug back in it. NGK BPMR 7A, gapped properly. Let's dig into this side of the saw and make sure that everything is as it should be. I don't know if the saw was cutting pine, maybe. That's some kind of wood that leaves quite a mess on a saw. You can see all the scrape marks, like someone was trying to clean it, but very hard to get off. Worse on the outside than the inside. All right, so under here, we've already talked about the chain catcher missing, the crankcase, something, a little bit of material broke off there maybe. That AV piece is rotten. Bar oil. Certain types of bar oil or used motor oil will rot them right out. But this clutch drum, there is something wrong here. It's sitting on an angle. Yep, something. Maybe the needle bearing is broken. Well, we're going to find out. Washer. The rim sprocket, completely worn out. The needle bearing looks to be in one piece. I've got the bearing back on there. A lot of that play may be coming from that clutch drum. Just the hole is just bored out. The bearing itself, it doesn't sit in there very nice. See that sideways movement? Yep, so I would say that we are into a new clutch drum, a rim sprocket, a bearing, and then if you're doing a kit, washer and clip. If you watch enough of my Facebook Marketplace chainsaw videos, you'll be much more aware when you go and look at used chainsaws and all the things that you should be looking for. So this clutch has quite a lot of movement to it. The clutch springs are worn out and there's retainers here. There's 1, 2, and this retainer is broken. There's a piece missing. Where'd that piece go? Could be in behind the clutch, or it could have bounced around in there and fell out. So we're going to pull the clutch off to make sure there's no damage in behind it from that piece. And this clutch needs work anyway, so it has to come off. Once we have this clutch off, we'll take a better look. Sometimes you can replace just the clutch springs when they get worn out, but if it's let go too long, the springs will actually eat into the shoes. And then if that happens, you're into a whole clutch. But we'll know more once we have this off. We're going to strip this saw down a bit further, and then we're going to do some testing. So one muffler bolt out, and this corner, the muffler bolt is missing. There's a couple T27s up in there. I don't know if that muffler has ever been off before. Look at the filth of that. Poor baby. The piston and cylinder look so good. I can see factory machining on the piston. I see a little bit of wear, but it looks really good. I was kind of worried. Judging by the outside of this saw, I didn't know what we were going to find inside, and I am super happy about that. Okay, so spark plug's already in. We're going to pull that decompression valve out and we'll put a plug in. And we'll plug it up with that. Let's get the carb off. A couple 8mm nuts. Tyler, do you want to explain why we removed the decompression valve to do a pressure vac test?
All right, so when we vacuum test the saw, decompression valves will not hold vacuum, okay? The vacuum will actually pull slightly on the decompression valve and you'll think you have a vacuum leak. They won't leak pressure. The pressure will push on it and hold it. But Stihl says plug it. You don't want a false vacuum reading. Can vacuum cause an air leak? No, it can't. The combustion chamber in a chainsaw never experiences vacuum under running conditions. If that makes sense to anybody. It didn't always make sense to me. But I called Stihl years and years ago when I first became a dealer and told them I have a decomp valve leak in vacuum. And I said, did that cause my air leak? And the guy at the tech desk says, no, you're not thinking of a two-stroke correctly. The combustion chamber never experiences vacuum, always pressure. And that is why we take the decompression valve out and plug the hole up. I hope that made sense to everybody.
Carburetor is off. So that's your fuel mixture port and your fresh air port. I'm going to put this tool on to pressure vac test this thing. If you don't have these tools at home, just use your carburetor as the tool. Pull it out and you can use a tube. You just need to plug everything before you can do your test, but use your carb if you have to. Okay, so we've got all that sealed off, decompression, spark plug, exhaust. We are ready to do a pressure vacuum test. I personally don't think this saw has any air leaks, but we're going to take the extra 30 seconds and just make sure before we put this thing back into service. Thinking and knowing are two very different things, and I like to know. The piston is at bottom dead center. You want it there to do this test. That way the transfers are open and the crankcase and the combustion chamber are open to each other. Make sure that my tool is working properly, and it is. Hook up to the port. And we're going to test vacuum first. Looking for half a bar. Looks good to me. And let's move over to pressure. So we have a pressure leak, no vacuum leak, and a slow pressure leak. I have sprayed soapy water on my connections just to make sure that I didn't do something wrong, and I couldn't detect any leak. So now I'm thinking crank seal. Let's keep digging. Let's pull the recoil off. going to go blow all of that dirt out of there before we take that flywheel off. $59.10, $893, 0801. Dirty. Spark plug back out. The piston is stopped with a piece of rope. Let's pull this clutch off. So that clutch is not in good shape. I'm not sure if we'll be repairing this or having to replace it. The piece that broke off this, you can see where it was flying around in here against the oil pump. Worm gear. Everything is filthy. It's hard to see. I'm going to take this whole side of the saw apart. We need to clean it. We need to get to that crank seal. So let's keep digging. So far, are you impressed with our marketplace find? That's bad. Look at this. This could be a safety issue. Your brake could not work properly with this buildup in here. Let's remove the brake spring. Let's take the brake band out. Gonna go give this blowing out so we can see better here. Well, that's better. Now we can see what we're working with here. I'm gonna dump the bar oil out of this. Let's pull the oil pump out of there. See the grinding on the pump right there. Our crank seal is exposed. We are zooming in on the crank seal on the clutch side, and we're going to pressurize the crankcase, and we'll just use some soapy water and see if we have a leak here. And pressure. And I don't see a leak there. Let's check the other side. This is the flywheel side crank seal. Same thing, soap and water, and we'll pressurize the crankcase. I don't see a leak here either. I thought we were going to find a leak in crank seal. So I've rechecked all of my connections and there's no leak. Both crank seals, I can't find a leak. I have played around with the intake boot, wiggled it. I cannot detect a leak, but we have a slow pressure leak somewhere. So we're going to have to keep digging. Maybe it's the cylinder. I've seen cracked cylinders before. I've seen the cylinder gasket leak. So let's keep going and find it. I found it. Let's zoom in on the front of the saw here. I could hear something, so I was thinking that it was my exhaust block, but I lifted this flap up. Let me spray some more soapy water in there. And I'll zoom in and shine a light. The cylinder gasket's leaking. It's a slow leak, but it's a leak. And we found it. So we have a leak in the front right corner of the cylinder. We could reach down in there and see if that bolt is tight. Make sure the bolt's even there. Yep, it is there. I can see it. That front right corner was loose. That's tight. This is one of the dirtier saws that I've seen. There's so much dirt, I can't even see it. And that one's tight. So the front corner was a little bit loose, but I don't want to just tighten it. We'll probably pull the cylinder off of this thing. This saw is going to need a serious cleaning before we can do anything. I'm going to pull the coil off, this little plastic induction thing, and I think I can get all this off with the coil. Okay, so we'll get all that out of the way. This hole in the intake block, I'll just plug it up. I'll just shove that in the top of the fuel line. Well, I think we're ready for cleaning. So get one last look at this pig before it goes outside. I'll be back. There's what's left of the chain catcher. So I started cleaning this saw up, but there's a lot of areas that I just couldn't get to, and there is dirt everywhere. So I'm going to take it apart further. That little clip, we're going to remove this brake handle. Even the filth of that. And it's stuck on there. I think it's from pine or some really weird bar oil. I wonder if you can see that. Like, whatever it is, it's a mess. These are rotten. I don't know if this is an old utility saw, like the Hydro Company, because I think they do use a weird bar oil, like a biodegradable, environmentally friendly bar oil. It does stick to the saw differently than normal bar oil. Whatever it is, it's just stuck to everything. That dirt looks like it would wipe off, and you can barely scrape it off. Well, I've got all the handles off. I mean, I might as well just pull the fuel tank off, and then we'll really clean it. I'm going to remove the intake. There's 4 T27s. I want to take this thing out and pressure wash it further, but I need to block this off. I had to remove the intake in order to get this off. So now I'll put it back on. I'll just put my intake block back on, and then we can take it out for more cleaning. What are you up to, Tyler?
Cleaning, cleaning, cleaning. Pine sap on everything, right into the flywheel, just everywhere. I've never spent so much time cleaning a saw.
This thing's gonna look like new.
Yeah.
How dirty that water is. Well, I guess I'll go up there and pull the cylinder off that thing. Tyler's done a very nice job of cleaning this saw up. I think he's been over there cleaning for the last 3 hours. Let's pop that cylinder off. All 4 of our bolts are loose. I'll give you a look inside the cylinder here. We have a beautiful cylinder. There is some carbon on top. So we will clean this thing up, but there is nothing wrong with that. That line there is nothing. That's just carbon. Okay, so no big deal there. Now where we found the pressure leak was right up here at this corner. You see that little mark on the cylinder gasket right at the tip of my finger? That's where the crankcase gasket comes up and meets. Now I looked at it and it's not really sticking up. It's cut off pretty close, but that's where that mark is from. And that's where the leak was. But this bolt was not tight, but the rest were tight. So now for the rest of the saw. The crankshaft looks good. I don't see any overheating. Both ends look good. Crank bearings are kind of noisy. Not really liking that too much. We're already this far. We could split the case, replace the bearings. The piston, you can see the carbon buildup on top of it. Well, that's not what I was hoping to see. Let me zoom you in here so you can see this. This changes everything. We'll zoom in on the piston here. See if you can see what I see. See that? The piston's cracked. I don't know what caused this. I'd be really curious to know, anybody who's watching this who has experience with this, what caused this. Well, I'm going to have to go and tally up what I need for parts here to put this thing back together. Crank bearings, a piston. If we're going to do all that, we should replace those crank seals. Clutch. Everything on the clutch side of the saw is completely destroyed. Rotten. Running issue. It needs a brake band. And there's my 362 spread out all over the place. $250 on Facebook Marketplace for a perfect running chainsaw. It wouldn't be running for long with a piston like that.